Yesterday, Nancy Pelosi was asked in a press conference, she made this statement, a warning, really, to U.S. athletes, which to me underscores the reason why the whole world should have said, we're not going to go to China.
I would say to our athletes, you're there to compete. Do not risk incurring the anger of the Chinese government because they are ruthless.
So, in other words, when you go to communist China, act like a communist Chinese. That's what they're saying. When you go to communist China, act like you're a communist Chinese. That's what they think is the way in which this should be handled, instead of saying, as Mike Pompeo said, why are we putting our athletes in this mess in the first place?
She goes on to say they could come after your family, not saying that your family has to be in China for them to come after, but anywhere in the world.
I know there is a temptation on the part of some to speak out while they are there. I respect that, but I also worry about what the Chinese government might do to their reputations, to their families.
That's a very scary statement right there, because that applies to all of us when dealing with China. What she's saying, if you have any kind of platform and you take on the Chinese, your reputation and your family can be in danger.
So here's what I'm saying.
Their families aren't there.
Yeah, so it doesn't mean they're going to attack them.
That means they can get to you here.
Here's what I want to say to Nancy Pelosi. What a lack of leadership on her behalf, that we are warning our athletes to surrender their First Amendment free speech rights as American citizens because they're going to communist China. And I go back to what I said in the beginning. So act like a member of the Chinese Communist Party. And Wes, when I think about that, Colonel Smith, I think we have reached a new point of ridiculous.
And it begs the question, and why are we there? Why is the International Olympic Committee allowing them to host? Why are all the corporate sponsors from America helping to sponsor the Olympics? I mean, think about it, Jay. They're the world's largest abuser of human rights. They commit genocide. There are 1 million of their own citizens in what they call re-education camps. It's a concentration camp, a prison. Internet fraud, intellectual property theft. They threaten Taiwan. They use slave labor to put products all around the world that we all buy. Vladimir Putin is no saint, Jay.
No.
But he is an altar boy compared to President Xi and the Chinese communists.
I detest that she says to our athletes, shut up. I do think it's very telling, though, that take out all the partisan politics about Nancy Pelosi for this part, about how worried she is, how scared of the Chinese she is, that she feels like she needs to use her platform to warn people about how dangerous the Chinese are.
When the Olympic Winter Committees begin tomorrow in Beijing, the Chinese government once again attempt to distract the world from a decades-long campaign of abuse and repression. But the United States and the international community know the truth. The People's Republic of China is perpetrating a campaign of gross human rights violations, including genocide.
Even when the Olympics were in Berlin in 1936,
right,
the Holocaust had not begun.
No, but persecution of the Jews had just started.
But the genocide had not begun.
Right.
We are in a country that the U.S. government, along with the United Nations,
yes,
has recognized is committing genocide against
today
its people right now, re-education camps, forced sterilization. We've had our own athletes protest the United States. So in 1936, Jesse Owens was famous for saluting in Nazi Germany. That's Jesse Owens, 1936. You see Heil Hitler, you see Japanese. Okay, so you see the axis
in the United
powers.
States.
It was a very early civil rights move. That message was as much to the U.S. government,
to President Roosevelt,
as it was to Hitler. And then in the 60s, 1968, you had the famous Black Power statement during the civil rights movement in America. And it was Tommy Smith and John Carlos, because they came in first and third. When they were speaking out there, the message was really to sometimes their own country.
Right.
A country that even in the midst of those times when it was not equal, not even on that path yet, they still felt like they could speak out.
Well, that's because they lived in the United States of America, where you can speak out. So like I said, we're telling our athletes, when you go to China, act like a communist and respect their authority and regime, because they're dangerous and evil. And just, don't say anything that would be reflective of your political viewpoints, your religious viewpoints. Act like a Chinese communist. Say nothing.
She recognized not just
that
China's not a place that you want to speak out in, that the U.S. can't protect you, that they can come after your family in the United States, that they are ruthless, and she confirmed that they're committing genocide. So that's why I think those are big statements. It's not just they're not a great human rights country and they're different than the United States and they're on a different path towards human rights. They're not on the path towards being good. They're not trying to improve.